4 days ago, as I stood here before you, it was our highest, last press briefing 4 days ago, it was our highest day of COVID-19 positives so far. Unfortunately, 4 days later, we're 35% higher than we were on Friday. Today, we have 253 new cases. In fact, every day this week so far has broken a record for the most new cases. Our total number of cases is now at 4,623 cases. Our highest 3 days have all come this week, and these increases in positive cases have occurred without any significant increase in testing. Today, at the Commissioner's Court, we were asked how many of the new cases over the last week have been nursing home cases, because one of the theories out there is that because we're testing in nursing homes, we're just finding a lot of sick people in nursing homes. Well, actually, only 64 of our cases in the last week are from nursing homes. So the vast majority of the cases are coming from people who are out in the general population, in the workforce, getting sick. Let's see, on the testing, as I've said before, we don't have full visibility into what every private lab is doing. We can tell you that our testing numbers, as far as the testing that we are involved in, hasn't gone up appreciably in the last 10 to 14 days. One possibility for why you're seeing more testing, at least as it relates to our 2 drive-through sites, is the CDC changed its criteria a few days ago to allow people who are frontline workers at grocery stores and retail establishments, essential retail, not the reopened businesses so far, not the restaurant workers so far, but just the CISA grocery store and retail, to allow them to get tested in case they're asymptomatic. That's important because if you're asymptomatic and you work at a grocery store, you could spread that to the shoppers and your fellow workers. So a lot of them have taken us up on that. Unfortunately, there have been some positives within that. Additionally, we've lost 15 of our county residents since the last time we spoke on Friday at one of these press conferences. And we now know that those folks who are requiring hospitalization, 65% of them have been under the age of 65, and about 50% don't have high-risk chronic health conditions. And so that's a reminder to all of us that this is a bad disease for anyone to have, and we've got to continue to make good choices out there. Now, I want to take a moment to thank 3 local patriots who stepped away from their regular jobs to spend more than full-time work every week with us, who will be leaving the county effort and returning back to their jobs, and that's Miguel Solis, who Miguel has raised over $700,000 for us. Miguel is the person who set up the 17 hand sanitizer stations and kind of changed North Texas liquor distilling into making hand sanitizer. So I can't thank him enough. There's Philip Hay, who was one of my top 4 executives during Ebola and came back to work for me 12 hours a day on the weekend so that my staff could have at least one day off every other week, my top 4 people. And finally, there's Patricia Nava, who has been handling the thousands of calls and emails we're getting with a host of volunteers overseeing that, so you can get the information that you need when you have a question. And so all of those people, I can't thank them enough for stopping what they were doing at their regular jobs and answering the call and coming to serve you here at Dallas County. The Commissioner's Court, well, let's talk about some before we get to the Commissioner's Court, let's talk about action that happened yesterday. Yesterday, we amended our orders so that, we filed a supplemental order rather, so that now the governor's recommendations on how restaurants, theaters, other reopened services conduct themselves are actually requirements here in Dallas County. And so that went into effect, and we have a high confidence that our businesses will follow that, and will those few that weren't already following it will quickly comply with that, so that their employees and the customers can be less at risk than if they don't follow the safety practices in the governor's Open Texas guidelines. I want to talk to you about voting. So the Commissioner's Court today, they passed a resolution regarding voting, and resolutions are non-binding, okay? But what the court said, and I think it's an important thing that they did today, what the court said is that we shouldn't force our voters to choose between protecting their health and exercising their right to vote. And so what the court did is they called on the governor, the attorney general, to join again what counties are leading on once again in COVID. What they're leading on, and you've seen it from the 5 big counties, both that did the safer at home at near the same time, and now that are saying voters should be allowed to have a choice between whether they want to go in person or whether they want to vote by mail. Now, what our voting law says right now in it is that when you have a physical condition that creates any likelihood that you could suffer injury in voting, you can vote by mail. And what lawyers have opined, and we can make those briefs available, is that not having any immunity to a dangerous disease that has claimed 70,000 of our countrymen in the last 2 months, and is circulating widely through our community, is a physical condition, and that it's not the mental fear of the condition that gives them the right to ask for an absentee ballot, but rather the likelihood of injury if people go into these congregate settings. After all, our president, our governor, and our Commissioner's Court here in Dallas have all agreed that large congregate settings are not safe, right? They're not safe at this time. If that were not the case, then we would have all the restaurants full, and we'd be going back to rock concerts and large gatherings. But we're not doing that right now, because whether you are following the science, as I'm asking people to do here, or whether you're doing something that's a little more risky, no one thus far is crazy enough to say that we should be going and being around hundreds of strangers. And so if that's the case, I think it's important then that we allow people the option of not being around hundreds of strangers and not repeating the Wisconsin matter where they stood in line for hours, cram-packed with strangers in order to be able to vote. And by the way, this is not a partisan issue. The majority of Republicans, Democrats, and independents want the choice to be able to vote by mail or to be able to vote in person. In fact, a recent poll said that 58% of the people said that they supported vote by mail during COVID, and 22 said that they did not. So I hope that our Attorney General and our Governor will follow the lead of the large counties here in Texas, and I hope the counties around Dallas will follow that, and will make that available to their voters. Will advocate for voter registrars and voter administrators to make sure to tell the voters what the law is, and let the voters have a choice on how they want to vote, and not to be intimidated by anyone who says that the law, as currently laid out by the only court that's ruled on it, somehow should not be followed. We have several things that are helpful to people that I want to make sure that you know about. And that is, the court passed several things today that will help you with your rent, with your mortgage, if you qualify, with child care for your children, and with small business. So let's go over those, and I've got a lot of notes here, so let me get rid of the ones I don't need. I apologize for that. Put these down here. The first one of those programs to talk to you about is the Dallas County Emergency Housing Assistance Program. All right, so this program is starting with $5 million, but I suspect that there'll be much more money that we'll put into this. This covers people outside of the city of Dallas. Under the CARES Act, the city of Dallas got money and the county got money. The city got money for the people inside the city of Dallas. The county got money for the people outside of the city of Dallas. So these programs mirror one another. And they work like this. If you are an individual or a household earning less than 80% of the Dallas area median income, then you are eligible for a maximum amount of $1,500 per month for up to 3 months for this program for either rent or mortgage payments or utilities. Now, there's only $5 million in the program in this first group of money, right? We don't have a vendor yet to administer the program. So we've asked Friendship West Baptist Church in South Dallas, Jewish Family Services, and the Catholic Diocese to all help administer the program on the front end with this first few $1 million. It'll be a lottery system. Not everyone who applies will get assistance this time. It'll be kind of like that Paycheck Protection money. It'll probably go fast. At the city of Dallas, when they did this, I think they had 6 times as many applicants as they had money. But again, that will be replenished, and we will try to help as many people as we possibly can. We'll be taking applications over the phone and the internet, and in the coming days, I'll be able to announce how you will do that. We just got the Commissioner's Court to pass that today. And so we have not opened enrollment for that, but that will happen very, very soon. The next program that we have that I want to make you aware of, if you are involved in child care or your child care provider needs help, we have put aside $400,000 for micro grants to child care groups. So up to $3,000, your child care company can apply for one of these micro grants to help stabilize them as we see more kids coming back into child care. I am concerned about keeping your family, and we all are concerned about keeping your family safe, keeping your child safe in child care. And I know the people that run these businesses will do everything that they can to keep your child safe. And this is one of the ways that Workforce Solutions reached out and said we can shore up that group of people that are doing child care. So that also is new and is available to you. And we'll have more information on that. Last one that we have is emergency business assistance programs. Okay, so this is for small businesses with no more than 100 employees. We know that these businesses will be, it's the people that are making the lower wages that are most affected by economic hardship, and the people with the smaller businesses that are affected. So these will be loans that will be forgivable. They're up to $15,000. That again will be on a lottery basis. This is only $5 million, this first section of funding, so there'll be more people that apply for it than will get it this first time, but we expect to put more money in there. And again, right now we don't have our permanent vendor. The city of Dallas and the county will work together to get the same person, same company, to administer these things, and then we can put more money in there, okay? But this first grouping is $5 million, up to $15,000 per business. Here's the rules for that. You can't have already gotten this Paycheck Protection Program money or other government business assistance. This is to help the people who haven't gotten that yet. And similar to Paycheck Protection, in order for it to be forgivable, it requires that you stay in business and keep paying your employees. You can't just put the money in your pocket and furlough your employees. We'll have more information on that in the coming days as well. Let's see what else we have. Today, the Commissioner's Court beat back efforts to do away with the consumer protections that protect consumers who use pawn shops. Still here in Dallas, pawn shops are capped at 15% of interest on a loan, and they must keep your property for 120 days after the emergency declaration is declared, or I'm sorry, not declared, but is over, to give you a time to get your property back. There will be continued attempts to do away with that by the pawn shop and industry. Similarly, check cashing is still capped at 2% of the check, and I'm sure that those efforts will continue as well. Also stopped today was an effort to do away with safer at home, shelter in place here in Dallas. That order remains in place until May the 15th. Let's see, what else? Okay, I might have jumped the gun a little bit in Commissioner's Court on announcing our Walmart test sites. I'm told this afternoon that there's still an HHS approval to be had before we can officially say where those sites are. I said where they would be, so I guess you can go back and listen to that tape if the media wants to know where they're going to be. But those sites were chosen by us. First of all, it had to be a Walmart Supercenter, and then it had to. We had the Parkland Center for Clinical Innovation look at where those were most needed, and there was one most needed in a town that in South Dallas. There was one that was needed in our largest suburb, another that I mentioned in the call with the paper, so I guess I should say that again, Rowlett. And then another one, well, subject to HHS approval, since I've mentioned all these things already, we're looking at Lancaster, Garland, Rowlett, Buckman Lake, and we already have one in Carrollton. But that is subject to HHS approval. Those sites will only be open 3 days a week, and they'll be limited to about 50 tests per site. So I guess you could drive up, but you're wise to go to a web link that Walmart will have. I believe it is, do I need a COVID test? Or is it COVID test, COVID-19 test? Do I need a COVID-19 test.com? And then you'll be able to see if you qualify, and they'll give you a time to come get your test at one of those locations. Okay. A couple of other things. Today is North Texas Giving Day, and it's a great time to give to the Dallas County COVID Response Fund. As I mentioned Miguel Solis earlier, who was kind of the driving force of getting that started. We now have $750,000 in there. That money goes towards helping our first responders and helping in this response and helping our healthcare workers in our testing efforts. I will be giving, I and my family will be giving a donation today to the COVID Response Fund, and I encourage anyone else who would consider that to give to that fund as well. There's plenty of other great charities that are out there doing fantastic work in this unprecedented time for our community. And so whether you give to the COVID Response Fund or one of these hundreds of other great charities at North Texas Giving Day, I encourage you, if you're able to. I know a lot of people are not able to at this terrible economic time, but if you're able to, please give, and please give generously. So the governor spoke about some new orders today. our understanding was that we would watch these things for 2 weeks, and then we would look at the next things around May 18th. But what we heard today is that he's already decided what these new things are. We have not seen the order yet, and what I'll do is when I get that order, I will give it to the Public Health Committee. The Public Health Committee is made up of people chosen essentially by their positions in healthcare. So it includes the Chief of Infectious Disease at Baylor Hospital System, the Chief of Infectious Disease at UT Southwestern, the Head of Epidemiology at UT Southwestern, of course Dr. Huang, the county's Public Health Authority, Fred Cerise, the CEO of the county's Public Hospital Parkland. I'll leave off name of Dr. Mark Casanova, the president of the Dallas County Medical Society, as well as other healthcare experts like Steve Love, the executive director of the DFW Hospital Council. And what I'll ask them to do is look at that and those openings and those things, whether it be haircuts or what have you. And I guess, as you can tell, I need one. But they'll look at those things, and I think we've got a lot of people in the public that are asking, okay, I know now when I can go to the movies, or now I've heard when I can get my hair done. But the question is, what do the doctors here say with the situation on the ground and the medical modeling that they've been doing would be the safest thing for me and my family to do? So that's really what we've asked them to do. We're not seeking to challenge the governor's order of what day he says you can do something. What our group is going to try to do, what I've asked the medical community to try to do, is provide me and the business community with their best information about when it is safe to do things. And what they've told us preliminarily is they want to change the medical metrics because there is this uncertainty where people are saying, oh, there's a lot more testing, or you're testing the wrong people, or what have you. They want to change that to things that are harder to dispute, okay? And these things would include, and I guess Phil will probably talk about this more, but these things would include ER visits for COVID, hospitalizations for COVID, ICU admissions for COVID, deaths where people test positive for COVID. These are things that, regardless of what you think, it's kind of hard to dispute those. And the governor's saying he likes those numbers better as well. And so they'll look at those. We'll still get you all the numbers we're getting you now, right? We'll get you the number of positive cases, everything you're getting now. But we'll also start tracking for you those numbers. Because what the hospital leaders here in Dallas are going to do, and North Texas are going to do, because these systems, of course, run through all of North Texas. What they're looking at is they want to see a 2-week decline, okay? And when they see a 2-week decline, even though you may be allowed to do certain things well before then, that's when they would tell you it would be okay to do certain things. If they see another 2-week decline, they would tell you it would be okay to do more things. What I've asked them to do is really make that, simple for us. And so in the coming days, I hope what we'll be able to get to you in a more simple way than a long medical treatise is, when's it safe to get my hair cut? When's it safe to be in a large group? I know I can take my family to a restaurant. When would that be a good idea? And other questions like that. So we're going to try to get you that information. They'll get it. They'll run it past a group of business leaders, because the doctors may say, well, you can't do X because you couldn't do X safely. But the business leaders may say, oh, yes, we could do that different than you're thinking. We could put up plexiglass. We could do something. And so after the health folks look at it and the business folks look at it, and they agree on the basic premise, we'll get that information out to you. It's not going to be required that you follow it, but I know there are a lot of people who want to know, when do the people that are most knowledgeable say it's safe for me to do something? Okay, the person that is most knowledgeable is not me. It's not Governor Abbott. It's not any elected official. And this is no knock on elected officials. But the persons that are most knowledgeable are the medical specialists who've trained their whole adult life for this moment, right? Just as you would not go see your general practice doctor if you had cancer, nor would you see your cancer doctor to deliver your baby. We need to listen to those specialists, and we need to take our advice from those specialists that are most knowledgeable in what is going on now. And again, those are the CDC, and by the way, the CDC is made up of epidemiologists, infectious disease specialists, and public health, masters in public health. And so the people that we're listening to locally, although I have all the respect in the world for many other medical specialties, but the people that we're listening to locally about an infectious disease epidemic that is affecting public health are masters in public health, chiefs of infectious disease, and chiefs of epidemiology. Makes sense, right? Our illness is an infectious disease epidemic that's affecting public health. So the experts we should listen to are the public health, epidemiology, infectious disease experts. So we'll get you information from them that will help you make your best choices.